السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. So the last time I spoke to you on the essential nature of glorification, of tasbih, of being in a state of dhikr of Allah in all states of your life, in your standing, sitting, sleeping, in the morning and in the evening, that glorification is the beginning. It is the root from which will grow into your heart and your understanding the meaning of why you are here, the purpose of your creation and existence. So you begin with that. That is the you plant your seeds very deep, and from that many realms of knowledge, many openings, we say in our cosmology, will come into you in your life as to why you are here, what you're doing, how things work. And subhanallah, as you go on in this unveiling, we say unveiling of understandings, that is a immense sweetness in life, that very difficult to get that type of pleasure, that type of sweetness from other experiences, the unveiling of truth inside your heart. It is worth dedicating your life to that, and that really is the true purpose of education, the true purpose of all that we do in terms of learning and gathering knowledge. It is to get to know what truth is, and of course once you know what truth is, to live according to that. So again, everything begins with glorification, tasbih. Sabbaha lillahi ma fi samawati wal ardi. Allah says in the Quran in many places, this is one version, it's given in many versions in many other places, everything on the earth and or sometimes in the earth and in the heavens, Sabbaha lillahi, is glorifying, is in the realm of glorification. It is very difficult to put this in properly in English, but it is its core essence, its core nature is to be in a state of glorification. I think last time I said that if you could see and hear your organs, your cells, your body, the air around you, everything is in a state of glorification. This is how it was created. It is something you marvel at, and it is awe-inspiring. Now, we as human beings, because we have this free choice, we are capable of choosing whether we join ourselves to that glorification or stay apart from it. The longer we stay apart from it, the more it damages us. It causes us, a modern term, separation anxiety. The more we join with it, the more harmony enters our heart, the more everything falls into its natural place, its true nature of being. And this is what we really call peace, right? Peace means you are in sakina, you are in a state of complete harmony, synchronization. You are at one with everything else. And this is also a secret of the meaning of the oneness of God, the Tawheed. There is a line in the Mashishia, Ibn Mashish's beautiful dua, where he says, take me out of the realm of metaphorical unity and drown me in the ocean of oneness with you. It's very difficult to understand that because he uses the Arabic word Tawheed and Wahda. So if you try to comprehend this with your mind, you'll get befuddled, you'll get confused, and this is when people make the mistake of jumping to conclusions and calling, of course he's Arif Billah, he's someone who knows Allah very well. He lived a long time ago. May Allah be pleased with him. So you jump to conclusions and try to judge them because you're using the wrong organ to understand what he's saying. That is experienced. When you start experiencing, as you increase and progress in your dhikr of Allah, your glorification of the divine, you will begin to experience these realities in your heart. Your heart will enter a state of harmony with everything around you. Then Allah's light, the divine illumination, fills your heart. As I mentioned before, it's a very beautiful, very soothing, very powerful but soothing light, a kind light, kind and strong. Those experiences cannot be put into words because the language is a construct of the mind, the language we speak. So hence it is not capable. The language of the heart is capable. So this is why often if you are sitting in a circle of people who are enter into such a state, they can just look at each other and communicate that extreme beauty, ecstasy, joy. It's a type of ecstasy. It's a type of, but it's not like it's not a drunken ecstasy. It's it is coming into the true nature of what it means to be human. And that is a very sacred thing. It's a sacred, illumined thing. I think perhaps that is what they call enlightenment. Now, what I wanted to say today was something very interesting about the word glorification, the Arabic word. Tasbih or sabaha, or to glorify, to be in a state of glorification. Subhanallah, we say glory be to Allah. It is closely aligned to the Arabic word for swimming, to swim, sabiha, or to swim, swimming, swimmer, sabiha. It depends on the construction of the word, but the same letters, the same order. So what is the connection between swimming and glorifying? If you remember, or if you watched it some time ago, I spoke when we were by the ocean about how the ocean has Jalal and Jamal, has divine majesty and divine beauty. And you need to understand the divine, the creator, in both the creator's majesty and the creator's beauty. If you understand the creator only in beauty, but that is when everything good is happening to you. When the hard times come in your life, you will be shaken and you will not know how to respond, and you may lose your faith. If you understand the divine, the creator, in only the divine majesty, which is power and strength, you can be so crushed by that. You will lose your light. You will become hopeless, depressed. it's a very dark state to be in. We don't want that. So you have to understand divine majesty and beauty in equal measure. Now, so I told you about the ocean and how you have to know how to swim, right? If you understand divine majesty and divine beauty in equal measure, you can confidently enter that ocean, not be deceived by its beauty so much that you forget about its strong currents, and not be so afraid of its strong currents that you don't enjoy the pleasure of swimming in it and all the benefit it brings. So, glorification of Allah, being in a state of constantly glorifying the divine, will simultaneously give you the ability to swim through life, right? If you can imagine your life as a river or an ocean you have to cross, and you can imagine that your starting point before this ocean was your life before you came here onto earth, before you were born, because you had a creation and existence before that. And now your time on earth, which is finite, which has a beginning and an end, no one can change that, is this ocean you have to cross. And then on the other side is the remaining aspect of your soul's journey. One, you have to cross the ocean to get to the right destination on the other side. You don't want the currents to take you and you end up in some land you don't want to end up in when you cross, right? So you know where you're going and you want to get there. We pray for all of us that is an eternal paradise. But you have to cross, and to cross you need to know how to swim. You need to know how to swim. Now, it's very interesting when you are swimming, and this is why swimming is a highly recommended skill. If any of you are parents, I would highly recommend you teach your children to swim. If you are adults, you don't know how to, go and learn yourself. Swimming is very interesting experience, because when you are in the water, there are a few things that go on. One, you are in unfamiliar surroundings. You are in a, not just surroundings, you are in a medium that is not your usual. You are used to standing on firm earth. Now you are in this medium, this fluid that is moving and doesn't give you the support the earth used to give you. One thing. Second, you find that this fluid has a force of its own. Sometimes it will push you, sometimes it will pull you, sometimes it will carry you. But you also find that if you don't know how to move your arms and legs and keep your head above the water, you can drown. And your body works in a very different way when you're in the water. So you have to learn to coordinate your arms and your legs, your breathing. You have to learn also to lose your fear of the water and trust it. That if you are very tired and you can't swim anymore, you can just lay on your back and you can float, and you will not sink. You will not sink. But floating also requires that you know how to keep a certain posture. You know how to breathe. Learn to breathe, control the rhythm of your breathing. And you have to trust that the current will take you where it's meant to take you. So we often use the analogy of swimming as to how you should get through your life. Because if you are crossing a body of water, there are times when you have to use your own power and swim. You have to make strokes and breathe and etc. There are times you have to rest and let the current take you where it wants you to go. One of the earliest things I learned when I learned to swim, and I was not taught properly with an instructor. I learned, mashallah, may Allah reward a friend of mine. She taught me, and then I did a lot of learning on my own. One of the things I realized very early is that if I got scared at any point I start drowning. Right? So you have to not be afraid of drowning, and you have to keep going. And you have to learn, another important thing is learning how to breathe. You have to control your breath so it is in harmony with your strokes. Now, all of this is a core part of how you connect with divinity as you go through your life. One of the things about life is sometimes you must act. Sometimes you have to really start working very hard. Sometimes you have to let go and let the one divine, the beloved, take you wherever the Creator wants you to go. You have to trust your Creator, that if you float, you will not drown. And another important thing about swimming and its analogy to your soul's journey is that your time here in the mulk, in this dunya, we call this the sensory realm. Sensory realm meaning everything here on earth is understood by your senses, by your sight, your smelling, your tasting, your feeling, and your hearing. If those senses don't work, or if they work in unusual ways, the way you understand your this earthly existence will be very different. Now, the sensory realm is as foreign to your soul as water, and being in water is foreign to somebody who is used to walking on land. You understand? So if you've never swum before and somebody threw you into the ocean, you would be in shock, because you're now in this realm, this environment that is completely unusual and foreign. Similarly, this time we have on the mulk, this time on earth, is that foreign environment. Our soul is not used to it. This is why we often say when babies come into the world, they cry. They are in complete shock. It's very interesting, in the womb, they are surrounded by water. So in a sense, it's a little bit opposite, but you understand what I mean. So that is a secret of the connection of glorification and the importance of glorification. Because once you start getting your tasbih right, that you are in a state of glorification, you will be swimming in the correct way in your life here on earth, right? And you will, inshallah, by God's grace, reach your destination. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing I wanted to talk about is this idea of, also with swimming, sometimes you control the direction you're going in. Sometimes you float and the current takes you wherever it wants you to go. Sometimes both happen, especially those of you who are used to swimming in rivers. I learned to swim in a river very, very young. Not proper swimming, but rivers are sometimes a bit more strange than the ocean, because it can be very swift, but at least you know which way you're going. The ocean keeps changing on you. But when you swim in a river and you have to cross to the other side, they'll teach you this in high school physics. Those of you who are taking high school physics, you probably have to do these equations in your exams. If you want to go to point A from point B, that is right in front of point A, and the current is going that much with that speed, where do you launch from so the current takes you? You have to think about all that. So these are good exercises for you, because ideally if you launch from here and you want to go there, it's very difficult. You have to swim in this direction and the current will take you there, right? If you launch from here, you want to go there, you may actually swim straight and the current will push you there if the river is flowing this way. So that is an interesting analogy for us to understand qadar and qadar. These are concepts in cosmology We say qada wa qadar Allah many times. That is translated in very strange ways, very difficult for especially young people to understand. What is qadar and what is qada? Sometimes in English they call this destiny, fate, predetermination, predestination. The idea that whatever is going to happen to you is already predetermined, it's written. So you are, in a sense, a slave of fate. So then, of course, young people ask the question, what's the point of doing anything? The point is, we know from our cosmology, dua, your supplication, can change your destination. But then how do you understand that if everything is predetermined? The answer to that is very simple. There's a lot of Quranic proof for that, which I don't want to launch into now because that will take a few hours. Because when we speak about the Quran, we have to do it proper justice and do it in the right way. So I don't like to launch into that generally unless it's absolutely essential. Certainly not in this medium when we have in-person classes or workshops when we talk about this. So I spoke about qada and qadar of Allah and how it is explained in the ayat of creation in Surah Fussilat and other places. In a workshop we did some time ago. Those recordings are available if you write to us. Inshallah. So, qada and qadar. So the answer to that, I said, is very simple. There are aspects of your life on earth, your destiny, that are written in stone almost, right? And so we say, the hadith is very beautiful, the pens have been lifted and the ink has dried. That cannot be changed. There are other aspects of your destiny that are being written, sometimes yearly, sometimes daily, sometimes morning and night. And your dua, your supplication can change that. So both of this happens because remember again, the Creator, the Divine, is not limited in any way. So you cannot say the Creator is, this is the way. So it's a difficult concept, but the Creator is not limited. So qada and qadar. Destiny, fate, we believe in fate, we believe also that you do something, it comes back to you in a sense. I like to use some modern terms to explain qada and qadar. I say qada is the execution, qadar is the plan. So if you are a CEO of a company, for example, if you are a researcher and designing a science project, if you are having to begin anything, if you are a student and you need a plan to study, if you are a parent and you want something for your children, you make a plan, then you execute that plan. So these are two things. So the planning is like, I would consider that qadar, planning. Qadar is execution of that plan, right? So these things happen interchangeably. Now they work in very beautiful ways. That's too much for us to go into now. But how do you understand that with your swimming? Well, it is like trying to work with that current. The current in the water is almost like the plan meant for you. You cannot change that. How you swim through that and how you attain that goal is like your qada, your execution. And you are given an agency, you are given an ability in this. Some people who reach a very high state of closeness with the Creator say, I don't want this execution ability. I don't want any choice in this matter. You just take me wherever you want to take me. Let the current take me. If you are swimming, You say, enough, I'm too tired, I'm going to lay back on my back and float and let the water take me. I will trust the water will take me to where I am meant to go. So this is how swimming falls into this very beautiful relationship you have with divine decree and destiny, and finding your path through life. Sometimes, very often, I have seen this, people who know they are meant to do something, they try to fight that because they don't like it. How do you know you're meant to do something? Tasbih. You start glorifying. When you start glorifying the one divine, it means you have kicked in this process of dhikr, remembering. Then you remember why you were made, because you know that, you were taught that before you were thrown into the water or you entered the water. So you remember. You forget everything about how you were on land when you were swimming, but you have to remember. So when you start remembering, you start glorifying, that will kick in why you are here. Sometimes you might find something in it you don't really like. It might not be glamorous, it might not be popular in today's world, it might not give you power or prestige. These things unfortunately have clouded our judgment, especially in the modern world. We are a very fan culture obsessed world, and the whole concept of fandom is very dangerous because you are looking for your happiness and satisfaction in other people. Or the more likes you have, the happier you are. The more subscribers you have, the happier you are. That's wrong, because we are people of La ilaha illallah. There is no divine but the divine, meaning our happiness comes from one source in our heart. That is the one who made us, not from everyone around us and how they perceive us, or whether they like us, don't like us, love us, don't love us. These are fleeting things. They are very unreal. They are not based in true reality. True reality is one, only the divine. When your happiness comes from only the divine, then everything falls into place, right? And why did I explain that? Because sometimes what is written for you may not bring you fame and fortune, may not cause you to be liked by people, etc. So you are perhaps not happy with it. But for certain, it is exactly what is best for you. Exactly, because it is the code in your DNA. It is what you were made for. It is what you were made, molded, fashioned for. It is what all your life experiences are pushing you towards. That is divine decree that cannot be changed. So that is your qadr. That is where that part of your destiny, what you are meant to be, cannot be altered. So the best thing is, if you are beginning to feel that in your heart, try to learn to swim towards it. Don't fight it. A lot of people fight it, and it is like, the current is taking them somewhere when they are swimming, and they fight and they fight and they fight. They end up becoming exhausted. They may get to somewhere else, which is probably not the best place for them, or they may drown. And what do we mean by drowning? Drowning is a metaphor to say you lose your, you feel sad, you feel upset, you lose your faith, you feel frustrated, you are angry, shaitan comes in, all the dark thoughts. It's a horrible place to be. Don't let yourself get into a state where you're drowning. Now, so always learn to swim with the current. Learn to use the current to take you where you are meant to go. Then you are working with the divine decree and the divine plan, and your journey will be very pleasurable. It may not be smooth, but in your heart, your external may not be smooth at all, but in your heart, your ruh, your soul, there will be a great deal of satisfaction, rida, satisfaction. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضيا مرضيا. يا أيها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضيا مرضيا. I generally prefer not to read Quran unless necessary. Quran is very powerful on the heart. May God protect us from hearing the divine word and not living according to it. So God says in the Quran that He calls out to this soul that is in mutma'inna, is completed. It's completed, tamam, finished, done. It's reached its destination. Come to your Lord, irji ila rabbiki radiyan mardiya. Satisfied and in satisfaction, meaning you're satisfied and the divine is also satisfied with you. It's a very beautiful place to be. So may we all attain that. May we all attain that, and may we find our journey there pleasant and fulfilling. So I wish you well in your swimming. So start making your tasbih. That's what I wanted to explain. If God grants in some other time, inshallah, we will talk about the understanding of the soul, what the soul is, versus what the heart is, versus what the self is. These words, qalb, ruh, nafs, used very much interchangeably, very often inaccurately, causes a lot of confusion. And then how does the intellect, the aql, the intellect, and how does your fikr, your contemplation, play into all this, and how does your dhikr, your remembrance, tie into all that as well. So may God forgive me all my shortcomings and mistakes. Astaghfirullah. We seek refuge with the beloved, we seek redemption. We don't actually use the term forgiveness in its English meaning in Arabic, though for Arabic speakers you probably don't understand the context of the word, but for English speakers, forgiveness comes with a lot of connotations and context from English history that is not quite what we mean when we say astaghfirullah. We mean something somewhat different. We mean we are returning and being completed again in this oneness, that we are going back to our true state of origin. We are seeking refuge, so we are now back to the correct way again. So there's no sense of wrongdoing per se. In Islamic cosmology, perhaps some Muslims also don't know, we don't really define right and wrong as sinning, yani doing good and sinning. we define it as being in a state of beauty and being in a state of ugliness. Beauty is always harmony with the divine intention. When you are living in accordance, in harmony with qada and qadar, you are in a state of beauty. When you are rebelling against that, fighting it, running away from it, you are in a state of ugliness. And ugliness always impacts the soul in very difficult ways. Inshallah, if God grants us tawfiq, divine concordance, we will continue as and when and how the beloved pleases. So we all seek refuge with the one divine, within the beauty and the majesty of the Creator. And may we be at peace with ourselves, at peace with those around us, and in a state of constant glorification. Constant glorification and thankfulness to our Maker, and that will be the beginning and the opening of many truths to come to you by God's decree. We pray. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina wa habibina wa